Welcome to a new episode of The Simpsons Did It. I'm your host, Steven Skolansky.
And I'm your co-host, Robert Skolansky.
And we're going to Comic-Con.
Well, sort of.
A really, really crappy version of what Comic-Con should be.
Now.
Yeah.
Yes.
This was like the original... I guess I can't say the original 90s Comic-Con because Comic-Con's been around for a while.
As we'll get to.
Yeah, but this is kind of Springfield's Comic-Con.
I love going to Comic-Con because you get to meet celebrities and you can dress up and you can do all sorts of fun things. Although not right now because COVID is still in our lives.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but hopefully Comic-Con comes back because I want to go back to Comic-Con and have fun.
Yes.
All right, so this episode, we are talking about Season 2, Episode 21, Three Men and a Comic Book, which is in reference to the movie Three Men and a Baby.
With Tom Selleck.
Which
I've seen that movie, but it was a really long time ago.
Yeah.
But I guess like the theme of that movie translates into the second and third act of this episode.
Yeah.
Taking care of something that's delicate.
Very delicate. All right. So the air date was 5/9/91. And for everyone keeping track, this is the episode before this season finale episode.
Also known as the penultimate episode.
Yeah. So we're getting there, guys. This has been a fun run through season 2. So hold on to your hats.
Okay, right. I'm holding on to my hat.
Perfect. We don't want it to blow away. The recap for this episode. Bart earns less than expected doing chores, so he partners with Milhouse and Martin on a rare comic.
Ooh, I can't say I've ever seen a rare comic.
Yeah, I guess I've never seen one up close. I mean, I've seen some very pricey comics, but I've never seen like an authentic number one. I have an Action Comics number one, but it's a reprint, so it doesn't really count.
That doesn't count.
But I've seen it.
Yeah.
So the chalkboard gag this week, I will not show off, and it is written in black letter font, which is, I'm going to go with Bart showing off.
Yeah, that's kind of, that's pretty impressive. I mean, he does say, I will not show off, and then shows off by writing, I will not show off.
Yeah, now what was he showing off? It had to have been something good, but gross at the same time. Do you think it was the thing where you could like spit a loogie and it like hangs from the ground and then you could suck it all the way back up?
Is that the thing Homer was talking about in the last episode that he thought was cute that Bart did?
Maybe. And so Bart remembered, and so he did it at school. Yeah. And then he got in trouble for not showing off, and now he's writing it on the chalkboard, and he's showing off while writing on the chalkboard.
Yep.
And you think his next chalkboard gag, I will not write in black letter font?
That would have been kind of funny.
That would be kind of funny. All right, so the couch gag this week. The Simpsons sit on the couch, and it tips over backwards, and Maggie pops up, which is another repeat. And I feel like we're going to end the season on another repeat. Yeah. So we'll just call it what it is.
Oh, my God. All right, so we open up the episode with Marge taking Bart and Lisa to a comic book convention. We learn that Lisa collects Richie Rich and Casper the Friendly Ghost comic books. And Bart points out that Richie Rich and Casper look exactly the same, which they do.
But I do like the conversation that Bart and Lisa have. Bart's like, what do you care about good comics? All you ever buy is Casper the Wimpy Ghost. And Lisa's like, I think it's sad that you equate friendliness with wimpiness, and I hope it'll keep you from ever achieving true popularity. And Bart's like, well, you know what I think? I think Casper the Ghost, Casper's Richie Rich's ghost.
Yeah.
And so Lisa's like, hey, they do look alike. Bart's like, wonder how Richie died. And Lisa's like, perhaps he realized how hollow the pursuit of money is and took his own life.
Oh my God.
Woo. That is dark for an 8-year-old to talk about.
Yeah, but Lisa's really smart. So, I mean, she would probably say something like that. Yeah, I'm not a huge comic book collector. I have a few comics and a couple like graphic novels, but nothing like what you have.
Yeah, my collection is ever growing. I'm probably close to, 2,500 issues of just about everything.
Yeah.
I sell things off here and there, so it's kind of an ebb and flow of collections. But I think my favorite comic that I have that's pretty recent, I mean, I guess not recent, maybe 7 years old.
Yeah.
But I have one of the Suicide Squad #1s from the New 52 run.
Nice.
And people really love that run from Suicide Squad. It's a fantastic run of comics. So that's probably my favorite one that I have. I mean, I'm a Walking Dead collector, and I got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles run.
I have a few comic books. They're still in there wrapping. I haven't read them. But,
yeah.
You know, so we get up to the convention center, and it is the 12th annual Close Encounter of the Comic Book Kind convention. And I love on the banner, so you know how you get a sticker every year to put on your license plate?
Yeah.
For like that, that's what it reminded me of, because you could see different colored stickers underneath because it says 12th, but it's like its own sticker. And you could see like other different colors underneath it. So they just reuse the same banner every year and just print out a new, so 11th, 12th, 10th, 9th, all the way up to 12th. I mean, I guess it's cheaper than printing out
a new banner every year. Yeah, it's pretty funny that's how they decided to do it. Yeah. I mean, just take it down and roll it up. Yeah.
I should have looked up how much admission costs nowadays for like even just a comic book convention and not necessarily like a Comic-Con, because I know San Diego's ridiculously expensive.
Well, they're not as bad as you think. I mean, when I got to get tickets for, I mean, granted it was Thursday, which is opening day, and Sunday, which is closing day, they're only like $42.
That's it?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're paying just to get in. You're not paying to do anything.
Oh, well, see.
So, but no, I mean, the admission though at Wizard World.
That was always like what, $35?
Exactly. So, I mean, to get into a Comic-Con, it's not the crazy part. It's
the
buying all the autographs and the gifts and pictures and all that stuff. That's really where.
So, the admission to this Comic-Con is $8. However, $5 if you're dressed like a cartoon character. And there's a kid in line who is dressed like Krusty the Clown. There's also, I believe, somebody who is dressed up as a Jedi.
Yeah.
I remember correctly. So that's not a bad it's not a bad system.
No. I mean,
to encourage people to come dressed up. I mean, I don't think nowadays people need encouragement to go to a Comic-Con dressed up. I think people are going to do it because they like doing it, which is great, and I think it's fantastic.
And you don't have a go-to yet, because every time I've seen you at a con, you really haven't dressed up. But my go-to is Bob Ross.
Yeah.
I'll probably post that because we're doing this episode and it's about a comic book convention. I'll probably post that up on our Simpsons Did It Facebook page.
Yeah, I think I did Kenny one year. I don't see, every time I've done the convention though, I've always been a volunteer.
Me
so
too.
I always wear
me too.
I know, but I always wear like nerd themed kind of stuff. So I wore my Mr. Meeseeks, and I wore my Kenny sweatshirt, and I have a Daredevil Punisher switcher reversible hat. So I'll wear that. I wear that kind of stuff. I would dress up, don't get me wrong. I just haven't found what I want to do yet.
Yeah. So as Robert just alluded to, $8 for regular admission, $5. So I like how the entrance sign is Close Encounters of the Comic Book Kind.
Yes.
Like that's the intro. But then Lisa's like, too bad we didn't come dressed as a popular cartoon characters. And Bart's like, this looks like a discount for. And then he steps into a phone booth and comes out with a cape and a cowl. Bartman.
And that's definitely a great allusion to Superman.
Yes.
Superman used to, well, I mean, in the old comics and even some of the TV shows, I can't imagine kids these days know what a phone booth is.
No, they don't exist. And I think the only one that still technically exists might be in New York.
Don't they still have them in like London a little bit?
I guess
like
I was thinking America, but
oh yeah,
but I think New York might only have the only one. So that is very reminiscent. I like how he blocks a guy off. And that's almost like what Superman does too. Like he blocks a guy off, goes in the booth, comes out as Superman, which leads me to believe that the guy that saw the Clark Kent walk into the booth would know that that's his identity if he comes out as Superman.
Yeah. Maybe it happens so fast that he doesn't realize it's Clark Kent.
Maybe.
And by the time he comes out as Superman, the guy's like, "Oh my God, it's Superman!" Like,
and
he's
also
so enthralled with that.
And also, who knows? I mean, to be fair, you have to know who Clark Kent is, and not many people know newspaper writers. They might know the name, but they don't know what they look like. It's kind of like It's kind of like what I've learned on a podcast from Bart of Darkness is. You don't know what the the voice actors look like. You just know their voice. So if you were to see like Yardley Smith or Hank Azaria,
I would never recognize.
Well, not Hank Azaria. Hank Azaria I'd recognize. But Dan Castellaneta, I probably wouldn't. Harry Shearer. If I saw them, like a picture of them, or saw them in a movie or something like that, then I'd probably recognize them. But when I started watching The Simpsons, I didn't know what any of these people look like. No. Now I do, but I didn't before. So running into him on the street, you'd never know.
Never know.
So Bart goes up to the cashier dressed as Bartman, and the cashier has never heard of Bartman, and so he makes Bart pay full price.
Which, to be fair, Now, I guess Bartman is supposed to be Batman.
Yeah, I would go out on a limb and say Batman is who he is.
So I don't know why he didn't introduce himself as Batman, because then the cashier were like, okay, well, it's not good, but I guess I'll let you save $3.
Yeah, right. So then we get Mayor Quimby welcoming everyone to the convention. And the first officially recorded comic book convention was held July 24th, 1964 in New York, also known as New York Comic-Con.
Yep.
Which is still celebrated to this day.
Correct. And that's the official first recorded Comic-Con. So that leads me to believe that there's been other Comic-Cons, but they haven't been official.
Yeah.
It seems like kind of like this wouldn't necessarily be considered official.
Yeah. So we kind of learned that Springfield doesn't get many tourists. Like most comic book conventions do. So Springfield Convention pumped $300 into the local economy.
Yeah. And I wrote, this doesn't seem like enough to continue doing this year in Europe. Now, Springfield's a small town, but $300, even if they do it for 11 years, that's, what is that?
3,300.
Yeah, 3,300 for 11 years. That's not a lot of money.
Now, I have seen there are comic book conventions in the Twin Cities that are free. You're basically going to a hotel, to their whatever room that they have at a hotel, and you walk around and talk to. I mean, you don't have big guests. I mean, some local writers and stuff like that. So, and you're purchasing. So those ones aren't necessarily drawing, but like you look at Wizard World and San Diego and some of the big name conventions. I mean, they're there to boost the local economy. If you're having, San Diego, I think San Diego's kind of a bad example, and same with New York, because they draw all over the world. Yeah. But like Emerald City Comic Con up in Seattle, I mean, you're getting people from, that top western part of the country.
It's like when it's here in Wisconsin.
You get the 5 states. Yeah, I mean, you get the 5 surrounding states. That's your big draw.
Or like if it's in Minnesota. Now, Chicago might draw a national crowd. Yeah. I don't think it would draw an international crowd, but definitely national. But like, when it's held in a smaller city, you're pulling from the cities that are like the major cities that are closest to whatever city that's held in.
So Mayor Quimby, during his little speech, mispronounces Radioactive Man as Radiation Man, and Jimbo corrects him and calls him a jerk.
he's like, I love Jimbo. That was a great spot for that. But to be fair, would Jimbo really be at a comic book convention? Up until this point, we've seen him like once.
Yep. Yeah, so not much. And so I do like how, in the car when Bart and Lisa are talking about how witty Radioactive Man is, she says, I stand corrected. And then moments later when Mayor Quimby says, I stand corrected, when Jimbo sets him straight on Radioactive Man's name.
Yeah. So Quimby goes, they need to clear out by 6 for the Shriners. And
I do like it. I don't know if it's written below, but I do like how at the end you see the Shriners pulling into the convention center.
Yep. And then Quimby turns around to his Secret Service guy and goes, get that punk's name. No one makes a fool out of Diamond Joe Quimby. Which, that's fantastic. Because Quimby is definitely like a characterization of almost like a mob guy. Like, he's not a mob guy, but his characterization is.
Well,
so
I mean,
you see him doing that.
Yeah, you can see he has, is saying stuff. Like, what is it? When the mobsters are attempting to build the ramp, ramp at the school. And, like, Quimby does a lot of shady stuff. So I wouldn't say he's necessarily in the mob, but he's definitely a shady mayor.
Yeah. So then we get to a artist with a sign that says, have your work evaluated by Jolly Jack Tate. And you have kids who come up with like drawings and stuff, and he just shakes his head no. And Jack Tate is an homage to Jack Kirby, who is known for his work on Marvel Comics. Jack Kirby is often nicknamed Jolly Jack Kirby, which the sign Jolly Jack Tate is reference to. Which I didn't get the reference. I was trying to look for it, and I couldn't find it. Clearly you did.
Yep.
So that's an awesome reference, and it's a good reference because comic book tie-in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jack Kirby's huge guy. I mean, he worked with Stan Lee on Spider-Man and Daredevil and...
Well, there's also... I don't know if you've ever watched...
Or Fantastic Four.
I don't know if you've ever watched Epic Rap Battles of History.
No.
But there's a Stan Lee versus Jim Henson battle that they do, and it's fantastic. If you've never watched Epic Rap Battles of History, I highly recommend checking them out. They're really funny. But they did that, and there's a mention in it where Jim Henson goes, well, Jack Kirby wrote everything for you to Stan Lee, and Stan Lee just put his name on everything that Jack Kirby did, that's what popped into my mind when we think about Jack Kirby. So if you have a chance, check it out. Really good.
Cool. So Otto is also standing in line, and when Bart comes into the scene, there's a whooshing sound when he comes in.
I love that.
Like that, man. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then Otto's comic book character is Busman. Big, beefy guy who's gonna save the world and drive the school bus by day. He drives
a bus, kills zombies by night in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
I don't think I'd read that or watch that. I'm sorry, Otto. That doesn't seem like a good character.
Gotcha. So Laramie Cigarettes ad shows up. So Bart and Lisa go to the area with the guy that plays Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
Dirk Richards.
No, that's the guy who played...
Radioactive Man.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of?
I did not... Buddy Holly? Or something Holly? Holly Buddy?
Yeah, the guy that plays Fall Out Boy.
Fall Out Boy, yes.
And so Laramie Cigarettes ads with Radioactive Man and Fall Out Boy. The Radioactive Man commercial for Laramie Cigarettes is a take-off of the Flintstones characters starring in Winston commercials in the 60s.
And Winston is also another cigarette brand.
Yeah. And I do think it's hilarious that obviously superheroes promoting cigarettes. Granted, I mean, it's to show... I mean, you want to save the world, but you also want to look cool doing it.
And as we alluded to in the last episode where Bart says it's okay for him to smoke a cigar, we see here... This is probably where he got the idea to smoke a cigar. Well, maybe not a cigar, but to like smoke in general. His favorite comic book guy is smoking a cigarette, so he's got to smoke something.
Yeah. Though I love how there's a warning from the convention MC not to ask questions about the death of Radioactive Man's author, Dirk Richard. That's a reference to a mysterious death of Superman actor George Reeves. Although the addition of the bordello could also be a reference to the unsolved 1978 murder of Bob Crane. So
it's kind of a neat reference. I know who George Reeves is. I've never heard of Bob Crane. I might have to look up that unsolved murder.
Yeah, who doesn't like unsolved murders? You can probably see it on the History Channel.
I love unsolved murders.
So Bart asks if Dirt Richards' ghost, the actor who played Radioactive Man, haunts the bordello where his bullet-riddled body was found. That's a good question. Even though
I love how Fall Out Boy just like breaks down. He's like, "Can't you leave the man alone?"
I mean, come on.
Yeah. So after the panel breaks down, Bart goes by a comic book stand with Nelson there. And we get our first appearance of Comic Book Guy. We learned his name eventually, correct?
Yes, I think it's like season 22, 23, somewhere along the line. Yeah.
So we get our first appearance of Comic Book Guy, and we did not get his catchphrase of worst blankety blank blank.
Yes, that has not happened yet.
No. So he has Radioactive Man #1, which was printed in 1952 and cost 10 cents. Radioactive Man, created a hero, amazing origin issue. And I had to look this up. So the first comic book that was released in the US was in 1933, and it was Famous Funnies. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Never heard of it.
I was going to say, I think it was around the same time that Action Comics came out as well.
No, that was a little bit later.
Okay, so yeah, Famous Funnies was the first comic book released. 33.
All right, so before we move on, I did find this. I just thought it was hilarious. So the old black and white clip from Radioactive Man. So Radioactive Man is,
yes.
These Laramie cigarettes give me the steady nerves I need to combat evil. And Fall Out Boy's like, gee willikers, Radioactive Man. Wished I was old enough to smoke Laramies. And Radioactive Man's, sorry, Fall Out Boy, not until you're 16. And then he winks at the camera.
Yeah. Again, you know, cigarette companies, not nowadays, because I don't really think the only time I see ads for cigarettes is to tell me that they're bad.
Yeah, I don't see real cigarette commercials anymore.
I don't know when the last time when somebody aired a cigarette ad. It's been a while. But, you know, your superhero is telling you to do it. You do it.
Yep.
So Bart sees the Radioactive Man #1. He goes, man, that must be worth $1 million. And Comic Book Guy will sell it to him for $100 because Bart reminds him of a young comic book guy.
But yeah, I do like how he's like, I think the comic book, I was like, oh, yes, it is. But I'll sell it to you for $100. Like,
and
what?
You wrote it's kind of cheap for #1 from the 50s. And now here's the thing. Obviously, in the Simpsons universe, Radioactive Man is a huge thing, as we see in later episodes. So, yeah, it's probably cheap. But I feel like Batman is in this universe, Superman, and other comics. So maybe it's not as popular.
All right. Well, I guess the other thing to really think about, and I'm sure if we talk to like the writers or anyone from this show, they'd probably agree. So Batman, you know, came out in 89. Yeah. But aside from, you know, the 60s where Superman had its own show, I mean, there was a huge gap where comics being a comic book fan really took a back seat.
Yeah, I was going to say in the 60s, you had Superman, you had Flash. Well, you had Flash Gordon in the 80s.
Well, yeah. But I'm just saying like the big names.
Oh, yeah.
And well, not only
Flash
that.
isn't a big name.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just saying like being a comic book fan, like reading, like everyone's always saying comics are for kids. Like that's what no, but that's what I'm saying. That's what kind of the big thing was in like the 80s and 90s. Like comics are for kids. Grown-ups should read them. So I think this was a huge kind of nod to that, saying, hey, you know what? You remind me of a young me. You know, I'm a grown-up that likes comics. Why don't I make sure that you as a youngster get kind of started?
Yeah. And so, I mean, it makes sense that he'd probably sell it for, I mean, $100 even in 92, that's gotta be a lot of money for a comic book.
Yeah. But when Action Comics #1 is worth, you know, $500,000.
Yeah. But that's by today's money.
Yeah. Well, it was still probably worth $500,000 in the 90s.
Probably. So we get Homer and Marge picking Lisa and Bart up, and as we alluded to earlier, you see the Shriners drive in their cars, which is hilarious. It's a great nod to earlier. And Marge asks Lisa what she got, and Lisa goes, I got 35 Caspers and 12 Lois Lanes for $1. So that's about 2.5 cents per comic.
Oh yeah, that dude, you hit the right booth on the last. Well, I don't know if it was technically the last day of Comic-Con there, but at any given time.
Well, it sounds like it's a 1-day thing.
Oh, okay. So I mean, to be honest, like I've seen some booths at Comic-Con where it's like 15 comics for $1, or they're just trying to get rid of all their back issues. Just dig through this box, take whatever you want. So it's maybe not that many comics, but some comic dealers at Comic Cons, they will literally bring long boxes of all their like back issues that they just can't sell anymore, and say, hey, you know what? We're not selling these. They're literally collecting dust.
Yeah,
10 for $1, 20 for $1. Just get them out of here.
So, and then Homer makes a comment that Wonder Woman, now there's a lady, and like he starts like doing the like drooling over her, and Marge is like, stop that, and Homer is like, I'm sorry, I got carried away. And Wonder Woman's a very attractive woman, so is Lois Lane. Depending, I guess it really depends on, I don't know, I guess none of the I mean, in comics they're still drawn kind of sexily, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Wonder Woman's also a superhero Amazon. Lois Lane's just a reporter, so...
And she just gets in the way of Superman.
Exactly. So
she doesn't have any superpowers.
To be fair, I think I might agree with Homer Simpson on this whole Wonder Woman bit. Okay. So Bart asks Homer for $100 for a comic book, and I love Homer. He's like, $100 for a comic book? Who drew it? Michelangelo?
Which obviously is a reference to the famous painter Michelangelo.
Yes, but
Homer doesn't know how to pronounce Michelangelo.
He does, though. When they went to go see Michelangelo's David, he knew exactly who he was.
Yeah, isn't he a Ninja Turtle?
Yeah, right. So don't say Homer doesn't know who Michelangelo is. He knows who Michelangelo is. So I think it was a choice not to say it correctly. Maybe. Okay. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do like how Bart laments that it's the only thing in the world he wants, and Homer says TS. Now that is awesome in a cartoon. That's great. That is perfect wording, because you still got kids not knowing what the hell that really means. Yeah. And all the grown-ups in the room be like, did they just say that on an animated show in prime time?
Well, I'm sure obviously the parents understood it, but kids aren't gonna understand TS stands for tough toenails.
Well, I can make this explicit if you want to swear. It's
tough shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Tough shit.
But yeah, so then we get to Krusty Burger. Where Bart's bugging Homer.
Can I have $100?
Can I have $100?
Steve, can I have $100?
No, you can't have $100.
Can I have $100?
Maybe. Ask me again. Ask me again next week.
Can I have $100?
No. But I do like how Homer kind of turns it back on Bart. Just like, so we've seen this before. The first instance was, so Bart pesters Homer for money the same way Lisa pestered Homer to go to Mount Splashmore.
The kids pestered.
The kids did. But yeah, so we kind of see it again. So I knew that was like the first one. So now this is the second running gag of, can I have $100? And so Homer turns around on Bart asking him if he'll stop bugging him. And I like how Homer just like, I win.
And Marge is like, keep it down. I do like the fact that Homer wasn't mad at Bart for trying.
No. He's like, you did your best.
He's like, Homer's like, it shows that I'm paying attention.
Yep.
Like, it's great. So we're still in the restaurant, and I noticed that Maggie had a French fry and she was just smushing it. And that's such a baby thing to do.
I do like that they get Maggie involved. Like, even though whenever she is in a scene, it seems like throughout The Simpsons, she's doing something. She's being slightly involved.
And so that was kind of fun. And I think I've seen, your kid do that where he just smushes things.
Not anymore. Maybe when he's a baby.
Yeah. So a very unanimated worker stands at the Krusty Burger register smoking a cigarette.
And he's just standing there. He's just standing. He's not moving.
Just a background character.
But even background characters move or have arms move or something weird. This guy was literally drawn on top of the Simpsons moving. on Sin Cells.
So Marge is telling Bart a story of how she wanted, it wasn't an easy bake oven, but that's what it was. And she decided to go to her sisters for money, and they made her slave. And Salma Pay's like, oh, good, this will give us more time to smoke. And then it cuts to the next scene where they're in their bedroom, and their voice is how they are like that now. I don't know what that time frame is. Maybe a month, maybe 2. But I don't think smoking. Now, obviously, they're chain smokers. I don't know how much they smoked. But even let's say it's a month. Does that really change your voice that much in a month?
Probably not, unless they have like underlying
throat
issues.
So that was kind of odd. And so Marge is like, oh, I got the Easy Bake Oven and it tasted so good because I worked hard for it. And she suggests Bart a part-time job. And Bart, I love how Bart's like, oh, thanks, Mom. You don't have to get a part-time job for me. And Lisa butts in, she was talking about you, idiot.
No. So Bart's like, so maybe a part-time job is the answer. And Bart's like, Mom, I couldn't ask you to do that. You're already taking care of Maggie. And Lisa is such a handful. And Lisa's like, she means you should get a job, stupid.
And then, so Bart stares off into space, and we get an older version of Bart's voice, heard saying, I didn't realize it at the time, but a little piece of my childhood had slipped away forever. And that voice is Daniel Stern, who guest starred as the voice of the adult Bart, just like he did for the adult voice of the character Kevin in the television show The Wonder Years.
You know,
I never watched The Wonder Years.
You know, it's funny. It doesn't sound like Daniel Stern. Like the voice it doesn't
really
click with. Maybe it did with some. Maybe it doesn't sound. But like audio plays some weird parts in people's ears sometimes when you listen to it. But to me, it didn't necessarily sound like him unless it was, a different way he was talking. Because there were sometimes, sometimes people talk differently in movies as opposed to on, voiceovers. Like their voice sounds a little bit different. But that was great.
And then Homer interrupts Bart and he's like, Bart, what are you looking at? Nothing.
That was awesome. Yep. Just staring off into space. Yep. It was great. And then he's like, he didn't say it, and neither did I. But at that moment, my dad and I were closer than, which is where Homer interrupts again.
Bart!
I know. I love it. That is just so perfect. Hey, do you like Cards Against Humanity?
I sure do.
Well, what if you could play Cards Against Humanity Simpson style?
That would be amazing.
Well, now you can. Check out cardsagainstthesimpsons.com to buy your very own set of Simpsons Against Humanity.
I see a lot of podcasts give out discount codes. Is there a promo code I could use?
There sure is. Use promo code SimpsonsPod. That's SIMPSONSPOD to receive a 10% discount on Cards Against Humanity, the Simpsons way.
Ay caramba, that's a good deal. But for all of our listeners out there, if you want a better deal, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to get a different promo code to save even more.
That is correct. So head over to Facebook, the Simpsons Did It page, Instagram, Simpsons Did It Pod, and Twitter, Simpsons Did It PC to get that code. And as always, everything's coming up Millhouse. And then, so now we're back at the Simpson house, and he's doing the I need some money, a lot of money. And so while Bart is searching for the money under the sofa cushion, he's humming the tune "We're in the Money," but he sings, I need some money, a lot of money. So, and I like how he just eats something just under the couch.
That's gross.
I mean, I don't think I'd ever eat a fallen Cheerio or...
It seemed like it was gum. I don't know. But whatever it was gross.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone should be eating things that are hidden under a couch cushion.
Correct.
So then Bart goes into a room and breaks open a souvenir that Patty and Selma gave him, the coins of Bolivia. And he goes to the bank and it's worth 3 cents. Like all those coins was only 3 cents.
Gotta love American currency.
Yeah.
Or the exchange rate. That's what it was.
From Bolivia.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't necessarily look into it, but...
No.
Apparently the exchange rate is pretty bad for Bolivian coins. So then Bart's like, okay, now he tries selling lemonade. Yeah. And this is where we get the correct haha. So Lisa comes out and says, oh, you got to look more pathetic. So she turns some letters around, puts his hat backwards, and makes him look all downtrodden. And then Nelson bikes on by and does this ha ha. And so that is the very first instance of the correct ha ha. And then Bart's like, this is stupid, and decides to sell Homer's beer. And so the cops come over, and Officer Lou and Eddie bust Bart after he switches from selling lemonade to beer without a license. Yeah. And Bart discourages them from writing him a ticket by offering them one on the house.
And they take it and
just walk away.
Yeah, that's got to be illegal.
Probably. But it's Springfield. The cops are, bribable in Springfield.
Yes, very.
Needless to say. And then Homer comes home. It's like, my beer, my beautiful beer.
I mean, I'm surprised we didn't get a scene where Homer tries to chase Bart and choke him.
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet. We're almost to 2 seasons. We've
seen him chase him a couple times. I think he's gotten him once in the science episode where Bart the genius, when he was cleaning off. I think Homer got him there, but since then we really haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Then we go to the barber shop, Jake's Unisex Hair Palace.
Yeah.
And here we get the first appearance of Mrs. Glick. I think it might be the only one, but this appearance is voiced by Cloris Leachman, the great Gam Gam in Beer Fest, also the grandmother in Malcolm in the Middle.
Nice.
So they got somebody cool for it. I love Cloris Leachman. She's hilarious. And so, Marge is talking to her, and she tells him, oh, send him over to my place. I have chores for him. So Bart's sitting there, and he sees a picture of her brother and says, oh, who's this? And Mrs. Glick goes, this is my brother. He was killed in the Great War because he took too long to throw a grenade. And we get a flashback, and he's like, this grenade's from you. To the Kaiser, and he just lists for Johnny and for this person, and then it pans off of him, and the grenade explodes, and you see his arm land in frame.
Yeah, now I don't know how grenades work, I guess, but I always thought after you pulled the pin, you're still holding on to the thing the pin was in. So as long as that's compressed, it shouldn't go off, correct? And then once you throw it, it releases that little locking mechanism thing. And then, right?
I think so. The Great War, I believe, is World War I. I think that's what it's alluding to, which would make sense.
So they didn't have those type of grenades yet?
I don't know what kind of grenades they had in the World War I. So if there's any history buffs out there who would like to school us on grenades used in World War I think World War II, they had those kind of grenades.
Okay.
So it's also possible that maybe his finger slipped off and he didn't realize it.
Maybe.
And so he released it, and or maybe he just pulled the pin wrong. Maybe he pulled it, released the lever, and then started his speech, and he was so enthralled with his speech and tunnel vision that he didn't realize what he did, and he blew himself up.
Yeah.
So then Mrs. Glick is like, have a piece of candy. And Bart's like, no, thank you. And she's like, no, take a piece of candy. So he tries to take a peppermint patty and brings up the whole gob of candy, which is such an old person thing. Yeah. Even now.
I wish I would have wrote it down, but the list of the candy that she was offering Bart, there was a sour cream something.
Oh my God.
I mean, just some of the most disgusting candies that apparently old people just like to suck on.
So then Mrs. Glick takes him to the backyard, and she's like, well, start pulling weeds. You do know which one the weeds are, don't you? Bart goes, all of them. So she gives him the clippers, and they're rusted, and he can't get them open. So he starts pulling weeds barehanded, which she didn't give him gloves?
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of weird.
I mean, any dude. Okay, so I get maybe you have to pull a few weeds here and there by hands, or if the clippers don't work, but all gardeners need to know they got to have gloves on their hands regardless. Correct. Now, good gloves, because there are some gardening gloves that you could still get thistles through the gloves. Oh, yeah. So then after Bart's working a little bit, we actually get our first shot of Android's dungeon and baseball card shop. And I like how the writers thought this would be the only episode with the shop in it.
Yeah, they came up with a name during like a late night session. And they're like, oh, this will be the only time it'll be in this show. Nope.
Comic book guy is a classic character now. But I do like that. I guess my comic book shop that I go to doesn't sell baseball cards. I'm trying to remember in Racine if the shop that was across the street from our neighborhood, they sold baseball cards.
They didn't sell comics.
But I don't think they sold comics.
And that place no longer exists.
Yeah. So,
it's now a liquor store.
So I wonder if there are any comic book shops that also sell sports memorabilia, if that's actually a combination thing. I don't see comic book guy as the sports memorabilia type, but obviously after talking to Millhouse, I feel like he does have some insight into the sports world. And so Bart, I do like
the sign outside the comic book shop. Take me to your comic books and baseball cards.
Is it kind of like a take on Take Me to Your Leader?
Yes.
Okay. So Bart's obviously eyeing that comic book. He really wants it. So then he goes back to Mrs. Glick's, and Mrs. Glick's cat attacks Bart. Yep. And that scene where she's looming over Bart, quivering in shadow, and Bart pleading, no, not the iodine. Burn the germs off with a torch. Amputate my arm, but not the... is reminiscent of the scene in Gone with the Wind, in which the soldier gets his leg amputated.
See, all I knew is that was a reference to a scene in Gone with the Wind. I have never seen Gone with the Wind. I don't plan on watching Gone with the Wind.
It's a long movie.
Yeah, I think I think this is like the second or third time they've actually referenced Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
So
the writers like Gone with the Wind.
I mean, got to get your references from somewhere.
Yeah. So then finally all the work is done. She's like, here you go, 2 quarters.
Oh my God. I would have done what Bart did.
Yep. So Bart goes and complains to Homer how much he made. And Homer tells him when he was Bart's age, 50 cents was a lot of money. And then he says it really wasn't.
And I actually looked this up. So I kind of did some math. We know Homer is 38 and 92, which means he would have been born in 54. So I went to about 65, which was when he was Bart's age. And so you could buy an item for 50 cents. I actually found an inflation calculator. And in 1991, that same item would have cost $2.16. So actually 50 cents was a decent amount of money.
Yeah. Back then, hamburgers used to cost a nickel.
I do like, I know we kind of skipped over it and we didn't write it down, but I do like the fact that after Bart got the 50 cents from Mrs. Glick, she's like, oh, you didn't say thank you. And then he yells at her. He's like, I will never say thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was great. So Bart made $5 through everything, looking under the couch cushion, the jobs, pretty much everything made $5.
Because he started with 30, and now because he asked the comic book guy if he'd sell it for 30.
Yeah.
And now he has $35. So I mean, he kind of got screwed on how much money he ended up making.
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Glick apparently doesn't know how much work costs.
Yeah. And Homer tells Bart that he was 20 when he figured out working was for chumps. Because Bart was like, working is for chumps. Oh, I was 20 when I figured it out.
And I like how the fact that Homer hasn't been to the plant since... Which episode was it?
It's been a while.
Maybe Brush with Greatness, I think, was the last episode where we saw Homer working. So maybe he is at the whole point of working's for chumps right now. Yeah. I'll show up when I want to.
So Bart goes to Androids and Martin's in there and Millhouse shows up and he's going to the comic book store to buy a 1973 Topps card of the former Boston Red Sox player Carl Yastrzemski when he had the big signbirds. And I actually was trying to find a price on that card and I was having a difficult time. It looked like the average amount right now would be like $20. So in 91, maybe $30 wasn't a bad price for that card.
Maybe.
So I couldn't really find anything. So you asked, does comic book guy sound like Mike Tyson? A little bit.
Doesn't
a little
he?
bit.
Like,
a little
it was
bit.
so
It might be the
weird.
same voice actor
As the guy that does
Mike Tyson.
Or not Mike Tyson, but Dredrick Tatum.
Yeah, Jedrick Tatum. It could be I mean, if it's the same voice actor, then yeah. He has that little tinge. I think they fine tune it as the seasons go on.
Yeah, it was just so weird, like watching him talk, and I'm like, God, why does that sound so much like Mike Tyson? It wasn't bugging me, but it was weird.
Yeah. Milhouse has $30. Bart has $35. Milhouse has $40. Combined, they can buy issue number 1 of Radioactive Man, which costs $100. So between the three of them, they actually have $5 extra, which was Bart's that he found through hard work and all that. So I just thought that was kind of funny because, you know, the comic book is $100.
Yeah.
And I like how the fact that when Milhouse asked for the baseball card, comic book guy is like, I'm not getting off this stool unless you show me the money. And Milhouse shows them the money. Yeah. And then he comes back with it. And they're like, no,
I've changed my
mind. So they get the comic book.
Well, before we get to that, I got an update on your baseball card.
Oh.
All right. So the Carl Yastrzemski card, I found it.
73 variant?
The 73 variant with the big sideburns. Currently, to this day, that card sold for $24.99 22 days ago.
So $30.91 probably isn't too far off.
No.
So, okay. All right.
Go historians. They probably looked it up. I'd say they looked it up.
Yeah. So they buy the comic book. They go outside. They unwrap it to look at it. And Martin describes it as the stuff dreams are made of, which is how Humphrey Bogart's character describes the Maltese Falcon at the end of the movie, The Maltese Falcon, which I've never seen. Nope. Again, The Simpsons, they love their old movie references.
You know, I feel like I've seen the movie for my movie history class back in college, but I unfortunately don't remember it.
You probably fell asleep or didn't go to class.
Probably fell asleep. I fell asleep through a few movies.
So it looks like it's going to start raining, and the boys are, you know, got the comic book, and they're like, all right, well, it looks like it's going to rain. And all three of them try to grab the comic book at the same time and walk away. And comic book guy comes out, and he starts maniacally laughing at them. And the kids learn why you never go in on something together. That's not necessarily true. It's just the fact that none of them trust the other now.
No, but to be fair, when our parents bought us something for the both of us, we tried to the Super Nintendo, I think you originally tried laying claim to, but I really never wanted it.
No.
Well, I have that Claymates still in my house.
And I want that. Well, you bought that yourself, though. We didn't own that. We didn't own that one. No, we never had that game. You bought it. Oh. You got that game yourself. Okay. Or you stole it from somebody.
No. I guess maybe I bought it. did we always rent it? Maybe we always
rented it, but we never owned it. Oh. But I have our original Super Nintendo because you have a different Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I'm going to need that back. Mine's not working correctly.
Well, tough crap. Go buy a new one. They're like $20.
Yeah,
you also have the SNES Classic. Use that.
Yeah, but I can't put cartridges in it.
Okay.
So now we learn the origin story for Radioactive Man, which is very similar to the Incredible Hulk when he's out trying to do stuff like farm work or labor or something, and there's an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And he blows up. And one thing I did note, because I looked very, very closely, is following the nuclear blast, Radioactive Man has 5 fingers.
Oh.
Now, I want to see if this... Well, I don't know if this would necessarily continue, because the only other times we see Radioactive Man is him... Live action in The Simpsons. And so the actor would have 3 fingers. But I want to keep an eye out for any other pictures...
4 fingers.
Or 4 fingers. I want to keep an eye out for any other pictures of the comic book.
Oh.
And see if Radioactive Man has 5 fingers in any other variations of the comic book.
Now I kind of want to go back to the couple instances where we see the Radioactive Man comic book and see if he has 5 fingers.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be fun to look back on. So the boys fight over who gets to keep the comic.
Yeah.
Up in Bart's treehouse. And so they put a brick on it. And one thing I noted is that the flap, the flap that normally has tape on it to keep it down, is flapping open. I feel like if they want to keep this thing in pristine condition, they want to make sure it's sealed. And
yeah, I like how when they're reading it, they have like, I don't know what you call it, but like a metal contraption.
Just like tweezers. I probably wouldn't use the tweezers. I'd be too afraid to bend it. Granted, using your fingers, but maybe
you get
like
all
the
oils.
A lot of people use gloves. Like a lot of people use gloves that can stick.
But I love how like they took the clipper, like the tweezers, put them in fire
to sterilize
to turn the page. I know.
I'm glad it didn't burn. I'm glad it didn't burn the comic book because I could have.
Now I have a question. So obviously the treehouse is kind of a big thing through The Simpsons. Is it just me, or does that treehouse seem smaller?
I think it just kind of changes sizes. You know how everything looks
depending
bigger?
On what they need?
Yeah. It's like the room of requirement in Harry Potter. It changes based on the need. But yes, gotcha. I mean, I don't necessarily know how big it is, but I feel like it gets bigger for multiple people. Yeah. And when it's just Bart, it seems a lot smaller. But any room can seem smaller with multiple people in it.
That's true. That's true.
But one thing, I do like how Martin's like, I get the comic on Saturdays, Mondays and Tuesdays and Saturdays, and Millhouse, you get it on Tuesdays and Fridays, and Bart, you can get it on Wednesdays and Sundays. And then it's like, well, what about Sunday?
Wow, you completely botched that.
Yeah, I don't remember the days.
It was, I believe Martin got it Thursdays and Saturdays, Millhouse got it Mondays and Wednesdays, and Bart got it Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay, yeah, and then Bart's like, well, what about Sunday? And then we'll determine that by randomly, a random number generator between like 1 and 7 or something.
1 and 9.
1 and 9 is like, well, what about 0?
In the event if it lands on 0, we'll do best 2 out of 3, rock, paper, scissors. How would that even work between 3 people?
I don't know. They're kids. They literally did not think about
they didn't.
How this was going to work out with a really nice comic book.
No.
And so I like how in the midst of their fighting, Marge, brings kids milk and microwave s'mores.
Dude, we used to microwave s'mores. I mean, I much prefer like the campfire s'mores, but microwave s'mores are decent.
Yeah, but they're already put together. They didn't even get to build them. That's kind of half the fun.
Yeah, but they're in a treehouse.
I guess so. Kids can't have a campfire in a treehouse.
I mean, they did have the candle, but I feel like that would take forever to light the s'more on fire.
Maybe.
That's what I did. I lit the s'more on fire. Well, the marshmallow. Because that's the only way to eat a s'more is if you get the marshmallow on fire.
Yeah. No. You could just heat it up ever so nicely. But we get another movie moment.
Yep.
Another movie we have probably both never seen.
Nope.
The accusation and suspicion that grows between the boys is similar to the plot of the film The Treasure of the Sahara Madre, which actually does kind of sound like a movie I probably want to see.
It's from the 60s. The plot basically revolves around like treasure hunting.
Oh.
So I didn't read too much further of it. I just read like the first like sentence of the synopsis of the movie, but it's like these guys go to Mexico to hunt for treasure.
That sounds like an interesting movie. Sounds like something I'd watch.
And I think it's from the 60s, late 60s. Millhouse and Bart tie up Martin because they don't trust him.
Because he was trying to sneak out to go pee.
Yeah. And Bart's like, well, I have to pee, but you don't see me leaving. And so we cut to in the house, and Homer's watching a small TV and what looks like a playroom, or is that Maggie's room?
Okay, you know what? I don't know what room in this house it is. I mean, okay, so he was obviously upstairs because the treehouse was at eye height.
Yeah.
So I didn't think Maggie's room has a TV in it, unless.
But it was like a small TV.
Yeah, but I didn't know the Simpsons owned. Well, okay, so I guess that's not true. I knew they owned a small TV, but remember it was in the kitchen when Marge was doing her workout.
Maybe they brought it upstairs.
Now, was that okay, so it wasn't Bart's room. No, it wasn't Lisa's room.
It had to have been Maggie's room.
Maybe Maggie's room.
Maybe Homer was in there watching Maggie for some weird reason.
But it's nighttime. She'd be sleeping.
I don't know.
I don't know where this room came from. I don't know. I looked at my Simpson house. I looked at my Lego Simpson house. There's no other upstairs room that Homer.
It's got to be Maggie's room. Maybe he was hiding from Marge. I don't know.
Yeah, after last episode, I guess I'd be hiding from. Well, they made up, I guess. But
so Homer's watching TV in a playroom / Maggie's room, and it's raining really hard outside. And Marge yells up to him to check on the kids. And Homer looks out the window, and you get a flash of lightning, and you see Bart and Milhouse like rolling around, fighting each other, and Homer says they're fine. Yep. And I do think we get a second flash of lightning that actually hits the
We do. Tree. I love that scene. That is, like, after I saw that scene, like, I just remembered, like, the first time I saw this episode and just remembered that scene. It's so good.
It's a great scene. It's a great scene. And, you know, Homer being the not attentive father.
Yep.
He's probably just sitting there like playing around, whatever. The Bart and Milhouse are fighting around, and the brick falls off. They knock the table over with the brick on the comic book, and the comic book gets lifted by the wind and, you know, shoved onto the doorway to the treehouse. And Bart and Milhouse are fighting, and Milhouse falls out of the treehouse, and Bart grabs him by the sleeve. And the sleeve is ripping, and Bart is trying to grab the comic book. And now just thinking about it, that scene reminds me a lot. And I think this was before Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. But it reminds me of the end of the Last Crusade, where Indy is holding on to the girl, and she's trying to grab for the Holy Grail. And then obviously in this scene, Bart doesn't fall. Well, Milhouse doesn't fall to his death, although he went to die because Bart's like, it's only a few feet.
And the rain softened up the ground.
And so, and just as Milhouse sleeves completely rips, Bart saves Milhouse, leaving the comic book to the wind. He's like, oh, he could still save it, and he doesn't save it. And it flies to the ground into the mud. And it's like, they're like, oh no, it's muddy. But they probably thought they could still save it. And then Santa's little helper comes by and rips up the comic book a little bit more. And then it gets struck by lightning.
Yep. Man, lightning strikes the Simpsons' backyard pretty regularly. I mean, I know lightning doesn't strike the same spot twice.
That is a myth.
Oh, really?
That is a myth, my friend.
Well, the Simpsons' backyard must have some sort of lightning rod near it.
Well, don't they have an antenna on their roof?
Yeah, but I mean, it struck the ground on the comic, struck the tree. I don't know if so to be fair, maybe the first one that Homer saw was just lightning in the sky, but the second one hit the tree, and then apparently a third one came by and railed the comic book, so...
God really didn't want them to have that comic book.
Nope. So Homer wakes up and goes outside. I'm assuming going to work. Yeah. And Homer left his window down on the car overnight while it rained. I've been there. I've done that once or maybe twice. So yes, guys, do not leave your windows rolled down during a rainstorm. Your seats will be drenched in the morning.
I think I've left my window down while it snowed and was able to get out there in time to like close up the window before my car got too wet. But I don't think I've ever left it open, like the window open during a rainstorm.
No.
So
the boys climbed down. I guess I don't know if they napped. I feel like they weren't up all night.
Well, maybe they were. So Marge went up there to
that's
get
right. They brought him in. That's
because like Martin was still tied. And
you can play your little tie-up game inside.
Yeah, because the storm was really bad and she didn't want them out there.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously they woke up in the morning. They came out and they were trying to put the comic book back together. Which after a lightning strike, I don't know how any pieces are still there, but
I think while they were fighting, I like how Milhouse is like, I didn't even want the comic book. I wanted Carl Yastrzemski.
Yeah,
I wanted a baseball card.
Well, Milhouse follows Bart to the bitter end.
Yeah,
and I like so that is you'd really I kind of want to see how much more we see it throughout the Simpsons, but this is really the first episode where Martin and Bart are friendly. Like, yeah, it was for a comic book, but I don't think we ever see this type of
No. Well, what's the episode? We already did the episode where Bart tried to make Martin cool, right? Yeah, Bart gets an F.
Yeah. And then obviously they were at each other's throats during Lisa's substitute when Bart was running against Milhouse for class president. So Martin. That's what I said, didn't I?
You said Milhouse.
Oh. But yeah, so I mean, I feel like this is probably the one and really only episode where they're semi-friendly towards each other.
And even then they weren't really, because then they fought over who got the comic book.
Yeah. But to see them in the same room together, kind of crazy. So, and then the final panel of the comic book winds up in a bird's nest with Radioactive Man saying, well, the world is safe again. But for how long? The end.
That was kind of cool. I'd like to know... So that tree seemed to be in the front yard and the comic book got destroyed in the backyard. So did the bird pick up that page?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know what a lightning strike does to a comic book on the ground if after it's...
I believe it would do what it kind of did in this episode where it would probably light it on fire, so I don't think that page would exist anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, I mean, if the explosion was big enough, would it float into the air, have kind of like the tornado effect of wind, and maybe it did get carried up in the air? I mean, it's possible.
It's possible.
I don't know if we should think too much into that. But
no, probably not.
But yeah, my final thoughts on the episode, I'm going to straight out and say it. Everything's coming up Milhouse. I love Comic Book Guy. He's just hilarious. The scene where he's like, you know, doesn't want to get out of his chair to help, to help people.
And Comic Book Guy was, so it's funny because a lot of people, when they see Graining, they're like, oh, I know who you base Comic Book Guy off of. And really, Comic Book Guy is just based off any comic book store owner.
No, like, I know my guys are cool. My guys in my comic book, I don't know, maybe Comic Book Guys back in the day in the 90s were grumpy. But, I mean, I love the inclusion of comic book convention. The three kids, I mean, obviously Bart tags along with Milhouse, but the introduction of Martin just really wanting this comic kind of says, okay, you can be a bad boy Bart and like comics, which makes sense. And you could be the nerdy, smart kid and like comics. It's kind of like that one line that, you know, crosses where, hey, everyone can like comics. You're a kid, you like superheroes, you can be nerdy, bad, whatever it is. You can look at a comic book and say, this fits in with what my, you know, you can have just a likeness to it. Yeah. And so just that alone was really kind of a cool storyline and how all three of those go together.
I'm gonna agree. This is a 5. Everything's coming up Milhouse. I love the Mayor Joe Quimby stuff where he's like, oh, get that punk's name. Nobody makes a fool out of me. The side gags with the Shriners. I mean, this episode has everything. Like sight gags, comedy, drama, suspense, sexiness, but not in that way. I love the some of the superhero references. Do the Bartman. I don't know if that's an actual dance, but do the Bartman.
It is.
You get Bartman, which is one of the few episodes where you actually see him don the Bartman costume, I believe. One of the only ones, I think. But yeah, it's a superbly written episode. The sight gags are phenomenal. You know, them fighting over the comic book kind of reminds me of, you know, if we ever fought over anything, or I'm sure my friends and I have fought over stuff that we wanted. So it's a phenomenal episode. And it is the first Simpsons episode to beat out the Bill Cosby Show in ratings.
Nice.
So that should say everything about this episode.
Yeah. All right. One more thing I want to mention. This was something that I forgot to at the comic book convention. But in the episode at the convention, Fall Out Boy wishes he was old enough to smoke, as I mentioned in that quote. Minutes later at the Q&A session, Buddy Fall Out Boy Hodges appears holding a cigarette. Oh. So he finally got his wish.
He's old enough to smoke, although he probably shouldn't be.
Yeah. So this week, our character profile is on the one and only Comic Book Guy.
Worst profile ever.
Really?
No,
I thought it was
one of
kind
the
of nice.
best.
So his appearance, overweight man stuffed into a t-shirt with an Amazon woman on it.
Is that supposed to be Wonder Woman?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm guessing. His occupation, purveyor of comic collectibles and memorabilia.
Mm-hmm.
Education, master's degree in folklore and mythology.
Interesting.
Must be like a history major subset.
Yeah, probably.
His demeanor, sarcastic, surly, insulting, and rude.
Correct.
Which, I don't know how you can run a successful business and have those traits.
Well, I mean, if you have fair pricing.
Yeah. Which it seems like he does.
Yeah.
He loves eating and profiteering.
See?
He hates getting off his stool for anything other than a cash transaction.
So here's my question. He does cash transactions. I know a lot of places now, have credit cards. Did he ever update with the times?
I don't know. We'll have to find out. Prized possession. A rare copy of Maryworth in which Mary advises a friend to commit suicide.
Jeez. Is that a real comic, or is that something they made up for the show?
That I don't know. Didn't look it up.
Okay.
But
I'm assuming it's made up for the show.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That'd be a crazy comic.
That would be a crazy comic.
All right. So where can we find us? We can find us on Facebook, The Simpsons Did It podcast page. You can find us on Instagram at The Simpsons Did It pod. On Twitter at Simpsons Did It PC, on YouTube to search for The Simpsons Did It podcast, and make sure you click that subscribe button. Lastly, for those of you that have checked us out, be sure to, we thank you. If you haven't checked us out, head over to buymeacoffee.com/Simpsons Did It. And if you love our podcast and love what we do, make sure you head over there and give us some support. You can donate as little as $5, as much as whatever you want.
If you want to give us $1 million, we'd be cool with that.
I think the maximum, unfortunately, is only like $25. So don't worry about it.
Donate $25
a bunch of times. But no. Feel free to donate whatever you want. We're gonna put that money towards merchandise, additional content. We're going to do prizes. We want to do a little like game show type thing for all of our fans to see how much trivia knowledge everyone has. So keep listening. You don't have to donate to listen. It's free. We're never going to change that.
Nope.
I know a lot of podcasts out there have done pay for podcasts, but we love our audience. We love what you do. We love the feedback you give us. But if you do want to support us and see amazing things in the future, just feel free to go over to buymeacoffee.com/Simpsons Did It to donate.
And if you have any suggestions of stuff you'd like to see from us, feel free to let us know. We will try to make that a reality as long as it's a feasible suggestion.
Yeah, you can email us, thesimpsonsdiditpod@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
So until next time, I'm Steven Skolansky.
I'm Robert Skolansky.
And this has been The Simpsons Did It.
Shh.